So what's going on, squad? It's your man Unspoken Reviews back again with another one, and we are going to be covering Star Wars The Acolyte Episode 1, Lost and Found. Alright guys, so my thoughts regarding this episode before going into it, or regarding this series, I was a little back and forth on it, okay? I know that fans have not exactly been happy with Star Wars. I have not exactly been happy with Star Wars. Whether you blame that on the final product that they've put out, whether or not it has been series or movies, there has kind of been this loss of pace that I think that a lot of fans are used to. Like, everybody hasn't been excited about it. And that's kind of fair. You know, we've had people that are either the stars of the show that have made certain comments, like Charlie Barnett, who said something like Anakin Skywalker blew up the Death Star, or Kathleen Kennedy, who has been somewhat in charge of Star Wars for some while, who has not been giving it the type of credit it deserves, or has tried to change it in a manner that fans have not been happy about. Despite all this, I decided to go into The Acolyte with a little bit of optimism, more so that I kind of like to feel things out for myself. I know a lot of reactions and reviews about the show have been put up, and people have not liked it. They see it as bad, or some people say it's okay, but nothing amazing, right? But I decided to kind of figure that out for myself and watch the episode. I was drawn to the episode or the series because I kind of like the idea of viewing the Force from another lens, right? I feel like most times in movies or in the series, we kind of see the Force as one way, as always the light, or we always end up following the Jedi by some sense. But this series kind of got my interest because I've always found an interest in how the dark side sees things, right? We always get like the ideas of what the Jedi are, what the light side is, what they fight for, but we don't always get what the Sith are capable of and what they believe and why they see the need to do things the way they do them, right? So playing video games like Knights of the Old Republic, I was really excited when you get to go to the planet of Korriban, and you get to work with the Sith. You get to see how the Sith see things, how they view the Jedi, and how they view the Jedi's idea as false, or they have a fault somewhere in it. And I've liked that. I've always also liked characters like Qui-Gon Jinn or Jolee Bindo. I like Qui-Gon because he's not really a light or dark. He kind of moves along with the Force. And I've always liked Jolee Bindo from Knights of the Old Republic because he is a great Jedi who kind of questions the Force and questions the way the Force moves, or how the Jedi themselves can be kind of foolish with their thinking. And I think despite how much we all love the Jedi in some sense, we all do have to agree that sometimes the way they think is sometimes incredibly negative and sometimes can lead to the dark side way. Maybe it's just me. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get on with the review. So the episode starts with an assassin who's making her way into a cantina or bar. She ends up approaching a table and she finds a woman who's cloaked, and she calls out that Jedi as Master Indara and says that she's come to challenge her into a fight and that she wants all her strength pit against her. Now, Master Indara is played by Carrie-Anne Moss, and we get like a pretty good action scene where Master Indara is not first really willing to fight her. And it makes sense that Jedi do not go out looking for a battle. They're not looking there to fight. They're able to defend themselves, but they don't use the Force to straight out, flat out fight someone if they come challenging them. So in order to do that, the assassin starts to just beat up on the bar patrons to get her attention. And this does pull Master Indara forward in order to defend them and save them. The fight is pretty good, and it goes on for a lengthy point of time, which is a pretty good intro for the characters. And we come to a standstill where Master Indara ends up discharging her lightsaber in order to stop the assassin. The assassin does make a comment that a Jedi would not pull out their lightsaber unless they intended to kill a target. And this kind of stops Master Indara for a second. And then the assassin uses her knife to try to take out the bartender that is on the lower level. Master Indara ends up stopping this blade from killing him, and as a result, the blade ends up killing her. Now, this scene didn't really bother me because even though it is kind of a waste of an actress such as Carrie-Anne Moss, who we all know has had kind of, great fight scenes in The Matrix, it kind of made sense that her death would happen that way. When we think of the Jedi always step forward to try to protect lives. This is evident in The Last Jedi in the film, where, Luke Skywalker ends up coming back in order to stop Kylo in the First Order. And as he's stopping them, Luke, his only job was to make sure that nobody else died for the rest of the movie, which is something that I really like. When a Jedi shows up on scene, it should be their responsibility to stop all types of violence and try to create the most peaceful meeting as possible, which is something that Master Endara did, even though it led to her death. So next, we move on to a character named Osha. Okay, she wakes up on a ship, and she's a mechanic, actually a mechanic who's freelance. She works on different vessels, trying to fix them with any kind of repairs that they may need. And later after that, she ends up being, and later on, the freighter ends up being visited by two Jedi, Jedi Yord and his Padawan Jackie. When they both arrive, Yord explains that they are searching for a individual who was once a part of the Jedi Order. And even though those who run the freighter are saying that they have no affiliation with the Jedi, the description that they give of Osha matches exactly who they're looking for. They confront, and Yord asks her multiple questions, trying to figure out where she's been, how long she's been there. And despite all this, they say that Master Endara has been murdered and that she has been implicated in that murder as the guilty party. Osha, of course, has her defense, but Yord does not believe this. Now, a lot of people were not happy with Yord in this show. Despite all that, I was not exactly mad at the character. I know a lot of people were mad at the actor, Charlie Barnett, that he was not exactly the type of Jedi people were expecting. A lot of people have to kind of understand, which is what I understand, is that there are going to be some characters that are sticks in the mud. Now, I know Charlie Bennett was kind of getting some heat from his compliment of saying Anakin Skywalker blew up the Death Star, which kind of left a lot of people upset. But Yord, the character himself, makes sense to me. He's kind of a Jedi who's all about the code. He's all about what Jedi believe. And it didn't bother me that his character is kind of somewhat stiff. You know, you have those characters that are like that. Even though they can be badasses, some of them are real stiff and real sticklers for the rules. This would be kind of in line with characters like Mace Windu. We all love Mace Windu. However, Mace Windu can be kind of a stickler. He kind of does not move around. He has the way he does things, and he sticks to it, and it doesn't change. So Master Yord's introduction doesn't really bother me that his character is that way. Right. We also find out that Osha left the Order 6 years ago, and she was once a Padawan of Master Saul. Now, when we meet Master Saul, he is training a bunch of different younglings who are just now coming into the Force, and Saul is trying to work with the younglings, but after that he is approached by another Master Vendesk. Excuse me if I'm saying her name wrong. When she comes along with the news of Osha, Saul immediately does not believe it. He does not believe that someone who has not been a Padawan for 6 years could immediately take down a Jedi Master. Now, in the scene prior to this, as Saul is talking to the younglings, he makes a comment that the eyes can deceive you, something that the Jedi have to live by. And something that I found very interesting is that the Jedi immediately believe that Osha is responsible without having the opportunity to talk to her. And it's something where I realize that they say the eyes can deceive you, but the Jedi should be wise enough to realize that someone who is not that extensively trained could take down a master. And now the question is, if she was trained by someone, that is understandable. However, the idea to believe that she's just responsible is the interesting thing that I found funny about this show. Now, this doesn't help that the Jedi are worried about this information becoming public, that a master was murdered, because it could hurt their relations, their public relations. So it kind of felt like the Jedi were being short-sighted with this, just automatically believing something. But the Jedi are not supposed to think like everyone else. And it kind of surprised me how quickly they are to believe this. Now, shortly after this, we cut back to Osha. She's on a freighter that's now being transferred to Coruscant along with a group of other criminals. And as they're on their way there, you know, the criminals actually talk to Osha and plan an escape, that they're ready to get out. And they start to make their move and take down all the droids that are responsible or trying to transfer them to Coruscant. Now, they leave Osha, you know, and abandon her because Osha is not immediately willing to work with them. Despite this, Osha is able to be saved by her small droid, Pip. And even though she tries to reach out with the Force, she can't summon it the way she needs to. However, you know, things seem to work out as the ship kind of spins and Pip gets close enough for her to get out of the cell. Despite being able to initially leave, Osha decides to go back for one of the criminals that was left behind. Something that I would expect of a Jedi to do. And even though she saves the criminal ends up abandoning her, leaving her behind, and Osha has to strap herself to the ship even as it's crashing to the planet. Now we cut back to Saul, and I like that Saul kind of keeps a holocron of Osha. But when he is confronted by Padawan Jackie, Jackie asks him, why does he keep a holocron? Because it is an attachment, and Jedi fear attachment. But Saul makes a good rebuttal where he says that if he doesn't remember his failures, he will repeat them with his newest Padawans or with his newest trainees. And it kind of makes sense to me, because we often hear the quote of, those who don't remember the past are doomed to repeat it. So there's a lot of truth there. And this is also a reason why I like Master Saul. He's not so cut and dry to just believe in everything the Jedi Order or the Jedi Code goes by. And it's his way of also making sure he is also learning better with each new Padawan he comes in contact with. Like I said, it's something that I've really enjoyed. So we actually cut to the detention center, and we found out that the criminals that tried to escape have been captured anyway. They tried to get away, but the Jedi end up capturing them, and Saul confronts the single criminal that was saved by Osha. And, Saul tries to use this as a moment to explain to the Jedi that this might be the fact that Osha is innocent. Despite this, the Jedi are still doubling down. They still believe she might be responsible. And I kind of felt this to be kind of back and forth. And it was interesting how, despite her actions, they still believe her to be guilty. You can be something said that possibly her only quarrel was with Master Endara, and that's why she was responsible. However, we do cut back to the world where Osha is trapped on, and Osha receives a vision of her sister May. And we find out for the first time in this episode that Osha did have a twin sister. That they grew up together and something happened on their planet, and Osha believed May to be dead. However, May is still alive. I think it's pretty interesting of a premise to kind of do with the show. Now, Saul and the other Jedi, Jackie and Yord, both arrive on planet searching for Osha, and they end up finding her, and Osha tells them that she's innocent and that May is still alive, and Saul immediately believes her. And at the end of the episode, we cut to May, the assassin, who is approaching a dark Jedi Sith Lord who is standing above the rocks. We don't hear much from him, and you just see him ignite his lightsaber, and that concludes the episode. Despite other reactions, guys, I was really enjoying this episode. I know it's kind of slow, but it kind of makes sense where you kind of have to introduce the characters. We did get some pretty decent fight scenes. Scenes such as Master Endara dying, saving an innocent bystander, that didn't bother me. That's something that the Jedi are supposed to do. That is something that they stand. And despite the fact of the reactions being all bad about the show, I'm still going to stick around, watch the other episodes, and get a feel for it. Because like I said, it can start off pretty slow and get pretty good as time goes on. I am not just going to suddenly be negative about it. I suggest you guys think the same way. Don't suddenly just believe what everyone says. Get in there, sit down, watch it yourself, and see what you think about it, okay? I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Later.